to the NAAS Preview webinar for the Queensland release of Class 1 load loaders. As you'll notice, microphones and cameras for the vast audience has been turned off just to improve the experience for everybody. If you do have any questions, however, during the session, please feel free to type them into the chat. We have our team on standby to answer questions and inquiries as they come along today. If we're unable to get to your question today, we will follow up with you after the session to close out anything that is remaining. I'd just like to take a moment now to acknowledge traditional owners and elders on the lands we might meet today. So I'd like to acknowledge them and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. And I'd also like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who might be joining us today from wherever you are joining. I'd like to now just pass over to Dennis for a quick welcome introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, and welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us this morning. Yeah, it's my great pleasure to open up this morning's session. This is a really important initiative for us, and clearly it is of national significance. Most would understand that this was born out of Tasmania as a system called HFAMS, and Tasmania deployed it very effectively. We identified the potential benefits for industry and for ourselves in doing that here in Queensland, and now that's joined up nationally, and we're now ready for our first significant release to industry. So we have done a release previously to the Australian Defence Force, but now we're ready to start with low loaders, as the team will go through today. So in terms of getting more details, there is details and resources. Just visit our website. You'll find more information of that around the NAAS from our website. So the team will provide those details. Which vehicles are eligible, which will be really important. The team will cover that off to give a clear understanding of eligibility criteria. And then just generally, today's format, we'll look at the National Automated Access System, the benefits that are there for industry and for generally for road managers as well, in terms of making access much more closer to real time and much more accessible. So then we'll have a live demonstration of the National Automated Access System, and then we'll cover off on the next steps. So thanks, Scott. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it. I'd like to pass over to Russell Holzer now to talk to us about the industry benefits of NAAS.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And if you could just let people in that are still coming through while I do this bit, if you could, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Russell Holzer, Director Strategy Engagement with the team. We've got quite a big team. They're all sitting in another room, actually, ready to take the questions online. And as Dennis mentioned, we've been working quite some time on this project and getting it to this point. So just before Scott gets into the demonstration, just two quick slides for me. I know everybody's keen to actually look at the NAAS, but what I'll just cover quickly around the benefits of the NAAS and just some background for context for those who are new to this whole project and new to the NAAS. So the team, we've been working closely with industry for several years now. We've listened to operators and understand that planning and responding to demand and to your customers is difficult. When you find access rules vary, permits take time, and there's no clear or consistent view of the available network and transparency really of the network, which really only comes through applying for permits in most cases. So the NAAS addresses this by providing quicker, more consistent, more transparent access decisions and removing a lot of uncertainty from the process and giving you more transparency about where you can and can't go on our networks. It shifts the model from route-based permitting to network-based access, and so decisions are applied consistently across the network rather than assessed case by case through permits. So this means operators no longer need to wait for permits. What the NAAS does is give you access immediately. There's no waiting time, and significantly reduced administrative burden as well. Simply as an operator or anybody for that matter, and just making I will mention this a few times, the NAAS is free. There's no login, no passwords. Anybody's free to use it. And basically, you enter your vehicle details once, and the NAAS generates a personalised network map matched precisely to that vehicle's specifications. And this personalised access ensures operators can clearly see where they can and cannot travel without needing to interpret complex permit conditions or multiple documents. So the result is greater access certainty, improved operational efficiency, and more flexibility for industry to respond to their demands. So ultimately, NAAS supports productivity while maintaining safety, and we still have those elements built into the system around safety and for all road users, and we're giving operators clear, reliable, and defensible access pathways across the network. And we've been working with closely with our industry representatives, local governments. We've been working with 20 councils and 4 port authorities in co-designing a new approach to oversized and overmass heavy vehicles. And this collaborative approach ensures the new system meets the growing challenges posed by oversized overmass vehicles on our roads. And the Queensland Government is committed to working with our national and local partners as well to ensure these reforms are implemented effectively. And as I said, we're trying to build a safer, more efficient and more sustainable road network that supports Queensland economic growth and the needs of all road users, not just the oversized overmass industry. Next slide, please, Scott. So as I mentioned, the NAAS is free to use. There's no logins or passwords. Provides an online road access management to all industry operators 24/7. Essentially, an operator enters their vehicle details into the NAAS, instantly receives a detailed Queensland road network map showing all the conditions and all requirements for that specific vehicle for the entire state. You put a different vehicle in, you get a different map. It's as simple as that, and it's a bespoke map for your particular vehicle. So using the map, an operator can plan their route by viewing all roads available for the vehicle together with any requirements or restrictions. So once an operator is happy with a route, you can produce what's called a route card, and Scott will go into that. And basically, that's it. No permit required. You can literally have a customer on the phone, talk about a particular job, and look at the route and look at the requirements and literally do it over the phone with the customer and plan it in that type of manner rather than having to put in permits. So the NAAS can assist industry operators and the customers to better understand where they can operate different vehicle combinations and the associated access conditions. And this may help plan movements even while, like I say, having the customer on the phone. And recent presentations I've done to the Heavy Vehicle Industry Association, using this tool actually helps vehicle manufacturers and designers actually work with their customers to look at where particular proposed vehicle configurations, what type of access can be attained across the state. So it's not all just about permits. We really see the NAAS as a tool, even for heavy vehicle designers and manufacturers as well, to match future vehicles to the network. The NAAS has been built with sound technical governance processes and input from stakeholders, and that ensures we get consistent access conditions and a level playing field. And we've done this across councils and ports and TMR. So we spent a lot of time and effort standardising a lot of access conditions like curfews, restrictions over or travel access conditions over structures, hundreds and different types of ones across councils, even our districts, and we streamlined that down to about 40 or 50 ones within the NAAS. As Dennis mentioned, the NAAS is based on the successful Tasmanian Heavy Vehicle Access Management System that's been operating since 2016, and we implemented a version of that with the Australian Defence Force in May last year. So while we are working on the release of low loaders this year, we are in the background working with the National NAAS project team, and we are working nationally on future releases of the NAAS as well. And these are around mobile cranes, heavy load platforms, and performance-based standards vehicles into the future. As I've said, this is a national project. This is us working along with other states, particularly on the eastern seaboard and Tasmania, and this project as well at a national level is overseen by a national steering committee as well. That's probably it from me, Scott. Just a couple of quick slides and some background for everybody. I'll hand back to you. Yep. I'll take my camera off, actually.
Sure. Thank you, Russell.
And I'll let people in.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to an important piece now. I'm going to go through a demonstration of NAAS and what the NAAS in Queensland will look like for low loaders. Just switch to my other screens here. So the NAAS is a fully national system, so it covers multiple jurisdictions. So it will have Queensland in there and Tasmania. The approach and entryway for everyone will be largely the same. There will be a landing page where everyone can come in. There are no logins, no credentials. As Russell said, this is a free to use open service for anyone to come in and use it, enter their vehicles, gain their access, and so forth. The front page of NAAS also has some additional information for various stakeholders. So there is information for road managers at the bottom, along with information for our compliance officers and enforcement officers, and information for operators, which goes through in good detail the functions of the NAAS, how to use it, how to gain your information, and so forth. If you're a new operator and you are going to be coming in, you will enter a new vehicle. If you've already built a vehicle in the system and gained a vehicle code, you'll be able to enter the vehicle code, and I'll show you what that looks like. The benefit of having vehicle codes and route codes when they are generated is that it allows you to build a library of all your vehicles, the vehicle codes associated to that, and it makes it much more efficient and more streamlined in the approach to getting in and using the NAAS on a day-to-day basis. So as an entry point, if you're new to NAAS, you'll come in and enter a vehicle. It will take you to the screen so you can see which states have currently got access through NAAS. So Tasmania and Queensland are the two states at the moment. You click on your relevant state, either on the map or on the list. It will take you to the same spot, and that will move you through to the eligible vehicles. Now, at the moment, our team is busy in testing and ensuring functionality of both low loaders and the load platforms. For this release, the low loaders will be turned on whilst we continue to develop the load platforms and release those when they're ready. So you'll select your low loader. You'll select whether you're operating a dolly or not operating a dolly in this instance, and whether you are laden or unladen. And all this helps build out the required information and data that you would need to enter and provide as we get further through NAAS. So once you've selected that, you can move on to your vehicle combination. At any point, if you have any doubts or concerns and you need some more information, there is some help functions. The help functions open a separate menu. Those help functions allow users to properly understand all of the different aspects and characteristics of what they need to enter through NAAS. It applies some quick guides and some troubleshooting and further links that you might need. Very, very helpful, very resource rich, and very well laid out. So encourage you to use that if you have any doubts and need some quick answers as you go. Once you've selected that, you move on to your appropriate vehicle. You can select whether you are a long bonnet or short bonnet prime mover. For low loader release, NAAS eligible prime movers will be a single steer tandem drive prime mover, your standard prime movers out there in the world. We'll also have low loader dollies as single axle or tandem axle dollies. And you just work through and click the required thing that you need today. Low loader wise, NAAS will cater for everything from a 2-axle, 3, your normal straight 4-axle, a spread quad, and a 5-axle low loader. So you work through and select which vehicle you are, and then we move through to some more specific eligibility questions, and we work through these variety of questions as we go. So NAAS as a overall system has a maximum dimensional envelope of 8 meters wide, 5.4 meters high, and 45 meters long. So the first question is, are you within those? Again, there's little question marks as you go along that can feed you information to help you guide you through the various questions if you're not quite sure of what it's actually asking you. As you work through and select your questions, there are rule sets in the background, and if at any point you are outside of that, the system will flag for you and it will tell you whether you need to go for a permit pathway or whether you are eligible for NAAS. We will have a telematics enrollment check, and this will check for TMA. So TMA will be required in vehicles in Queensland as part of our adoption of TMA, and there will be information around that to when that is required by and a reasonable mandatory date set for that. The system will check whether the enrollment is valid. It'll return you an answer and a response straight away. You can answer yes or no to the various questions as you go through. We do ask a question around smart OBM and onboard MAS. That will be a feature that will come at a point in time when technology and market and stuff is at a level that we can work through and implement that. It's just there for a bit of future pacing. For anything that it needs to provide information through, it'll provide the information to you. So if you answer to no to some of these, it'll tell you the various elements of what is required and not required, and it will tell you if you're able to proceed or not. In the next screen is where you will enter more specific details about the vehicle and the load. This is very similar to what is required through existing permit processes through NAAS Go portal. It's very, very similar, and you can build it out as you need. When you do this, this is when you'll get a vehicle code. I'm not going to go through and fill out each one as we work through, but all of the criteria within here has its own rule sets in it to what is eligible through NAAS and not, and it'll guide you as you go along. If you do have a vehicle code and you've done this process before, at the beginning, at the entry site for NAAS, you will enter that code that you've previously saved. So I'll use code that we have created here. 700. There we go. Caught me out. Correct ordering. And it will reload the vehicle that you have entered. It will ask for an enrollment check again, just to check against the existing requirements of the day. It will give you a result, and it can tell you whether you are allowed to proceed against the criteria that's set. And as you can see in here now, I've put all this through now. Everything that I entered last week is now here for me to verify and check. If this is different to what you're operating today, you can go through and make some changes. You can change your mass. You might have brought the dimensions down. There might be a bit of a different change. You might have a different prime mover this time. So some of the specifics around some of the prime mover dimensions may change. Likewise with the load itself and its position on the vehicle, rear overhang may have changed, and there may be a change to your forward projection. Any changes that you make through this will generate a new vehicle code for you, and it'll present that for you so you can save that against the modified parameters that you have put in. So once you are happy with the code that you have entered, you're happy with the specifics that you've put into the NAAS, and you wish to proceed, the NAAS will give you the information to whether you have access onto the notice. If at any point you enter something that it may not allow inside of NAAS, say you accidentally put a wider ground contact width on your prime mover, the system will flag for you and tell you what the maximums are allowed, or the range to which you're allowed to operate. So it will guide you to whether you are acceptable or not acceptable, and help you make those decisions for your entry into NAAS. And when you do that, it will check all its eligibility and everything again. When you get to your vehicle summary, it'll give you all the information. Again, things like help functions are available all the way through the use of the system. So at any point, there is information available to a user to be able to show you what you're looking at and what you're accepting. Everything that you've entered will be provided for you at a summary page, including all your vehicle information and an acknowledgement at the end around the general duties of using the NAAS and the operation elements. So the vehicle code, adherence to the conditions that are set within the NAAS. Once you acknowledge that and then go to view the map, it will now generate for you your tailored map against your specific vehicle for your access in Queensland. It'll give you a whole state view. As you see it on the first piece, there's a couple of key things to be aware of at the very beginning. So we have a legend at the left-hand side. The legend talks through all of the various overlays and imagery that you're seeing there, and it'll give you the information of what it relates to. So whether it relates to instances where there might be a conditional access across the structure, or additional pilot and escort requirements for certain things, your standard pilot and escort requirements that may be applied or are required to access the routes and the network. Things such as curfews. So curfews are in there for both state and local road managers. Railway crossings, so we have information on where level crossings are. And when you click on them, I'll show you some information as to how you can see who owns that level crossing and where you may need to go to gain consent from your third parties. It'll also show you where there are no access to a road or no access to a structure, and it'll make it very clear for you on the screen where that is. We also have the rail network overlaid onto the screen, so you can see where the rail network moves through. The level crossings will show regardless, but the rail network is shown there as well. And the legend provides the variety of information, again, very similar to what I've said, around what it shows and what's required. Help function is available there as well. On the right-hand side over here, we have things that are specific to the vehicle that you've just entered. So there is your current vehicle code, which you can copy just by clicking on there, and that copies it to your clipboard. You can save it to whatever filing system you might have to keep all your vehicle codes. It will give you an imagery piece of your vehicle, and the telematics enrollment check response will be shown there. Below it, we have the vehicle parameters, and when you click on this, you can see all the information that you entered against the vehicle. And if at any point you need to tailor that to ensure that you gain the access that you need to, and you might want to readjust the load, readjust the vehicle somewhat, adjust your mass so that you can gain the access you need, you can go to the modify parameters piece, and that will take you back to the screen to modify your parameters, make those adjustments, and come back in and see your access from there. We also have a item for general access conditions, and this gives you the access conditions specific for this vehicle in Queensland, generally that are applied to it. So telematics, vehicle monitoring requirements, the specific access conditions, where rail access might be, and there is also a link to the Queensland Access Conditions Guide in instances where you need to go and reference the Access Conditions Guide as part of your access. Below that is a mass, what we call the mass slider, and then there's a mass modifier, and I'll show you how that works and what it means for visibility over your access as we go along. But that is there below it. And at the bottom, we have axle groups and axle group masses and the total mass. So you can see what your operating mass is at that point in time when you are looking at your map. Other things to consider that are available is the display overlays. So when you go to the display option up in the right-hand side, you'll have your map legend, which pops it onto the main screen for you. It will show you everything there, and it is scalable to your map. We also have a overlay of Queensland traffic that comes onto the network and shows Queensland traffic, and I'll show you how you can use that and see that in a more focused detail as we do some routes and some more detailed stuff with NAAS. But it will show you everything there, and that is a direct API link. It is updated information, it is current, and it gives you the visibility of it so you can understand where roadworks might be, where traffic disruptions might be, where flooding might be, so it can help with your planning at that point in time. So I will close the display there and go back to my vehicle. So inside of NAAS, as Russell mentioned, we have been working quite a lot with some key local councils and ports to bring in more local information for you. As an example of local council information, in Mackay, we have the Pageant area is mapped and available in NAAS for a variety of local roads in that area, and the information is available there. So you are able to route from those local areas back to the network, and they are included there.
So Scott, I might, if you'd like,
Sure.
I might
Yeah.
give you a breather. You can have a glass of water or something, and I might just quickly talk about our priority roads, priority councils approach. So we haven't, so we haven't, well, sorry, I'll put it another way. Across Queensland, TMO looks after about 33,000 kilometres of roads. Conversely, all the local government roads across Queensland add up to about 155,000. So it would take us 20 years to put all that, well, 155,000 Ks into the NAAS. Maybe not 20 years, but you know, it's a big job. So what we did at the very start of all this is we used a lot of real data from historic permits, looked at where oversize overmass vehicles operated in Queensland historically, and quickly worked out in 80% of 90% of cases, they tend to go over the same routes on local roads. As Scott mentioned with Paget, you know, that's a lot of coal mining, support services. So working with their council up there was a bit of a no-brainer just to map that whole suburb. So when Scott goes through this, you'll see there's not necessarily all the local roads in, but what we've done across Queensland is a priority council, priority road manager approach, and we've got about 1,000 roads, a few hundred structures in there, but the ones that we have put in, we think we can knock over 80% of historic oversize overmass permits by taking that approach. And that's just really just to get the NAAS up and running. And once we do that, we'll be onboarding more councils, getting more roads in as time goes on as well. So back to you, mate. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Russell. Gave me a chance to have a drink. Yes, so mentioned by Russell there was quite a lot of work, and we've done work with ports as well as councils. So Port of Brisbane have quite an extensive network there that also helps with access out of the Port of Brisbane. The access conditions that you will see inside of NAAS cover a variety of things, and it adjusts to align the legend to where you are specifically to give you your access conditions. So on a particular road, when you click on that particular road, you'll see the road manager, you'll see your pilot and escort requirements for both day and night in that space, and you will see the maximum length, width and height that is applicable to that piece of road. So we've made it so that as much information is transparent so that you can make those decisions about what you need to move across that road network. Additionally, for bridges and structures, we've provided as much information again as we're able to. So we have the structure name, asset number, who owns that asset, and as well as any vehicle access conditions that apply to that structure. So the vehicle speed, what other vehicle requirements might be, travel position, pilot and escort requirements, very similar to what you would see on the permit. All the information is there and available. We also include the maximum, the width between curbs, we attribute to ground contact width, so you can see the trafficable width, available width of that structure. individualized. Additionally, if you need to do some route assessment and understand the pieces of infrastructure that you're moving across, you can view Street View for anything that you click on the map, and it will load the current Street View for you so that you can see, you know, what that bridge looks like, the road furniture around it, what the approaches are, and what control measures you might need to make sure you've got in place and how you apply those. So that is viewable at any point where you click on the available network. It will show you a Street View, so you can look at that in greater detail. Additionally, with things such as the rail crossings, so we have the rail crossings in there, and we have the link to the relevant rail infrastructure manager. When you click on that, it will take you to that rail manager's approval processes. Noting that things like QR, you know, make sure you read and understand it. They have some approvals in place where you don't need to specifically make an application if you fit certain masses and dimensions. So just make sure you are aware of that and apply where you need to, but it'll take you to the page so that you can make those applications as needed. The rail network as an overlay on here shows on here, but if you need to see your roads in more detail, you can go up to your display and turn the railway lines off. The rail crossings will all stay in place and the information will still be there. Just helps you manage the page to wherever you wish to manage the page. You can also go to satellite view and see in satellite view if that's your preference, or leave it on the map view for usability as you need. For any pieces of road or bridge where there is a no access, you will see that in red. When you click on it, it will tell you no access, and it will tell you the maximums that are allowed on that road at that point in time. So Kessel's Road, whilst it has dimensional availability, it also has a maximum load limit. That's part of the Brisbane Urban Corridor. That should be no surprise to anyone here. Bridge Rise as well will show you the bridge that has no access for your vehicle, and it'll give you all the same information. It'll give you the asset number, the road manager, the dimensions that are applied to that, the maximum ground contact width or the maximum width of that bridge, and the maximum load limit that applies to that bridge. Again, that's along Brisbane Urban Corridor, so it carries its own restrictions. At the top of the screen, there is a banner here that tells you whether the map is completely to scale. So the map scales as you zoom in, more of the road network becomes available to view. That's to improve the user experience and the viewing of the network, because in some parts it is quite feature rich and it has a lot of information. So to ensure you're seeing as much of the network as you possibly can, you zoom in until it is turned to green, and that is showing you that part of the network on the screen with all of the detail. So it will show you all of the roads, all of the access conditions, everything is on there at its maximum detail. So when you're planning accessing sites at either end of your journey, this is where it's really helpful to zoom right in to understand that maximum level of detail that you're able to use. So there is a lot of information that is made available through the map itself. What I'll show you now is the development of a route card and how to pick your start and end journey points, nominate your route, work through alternatives, see your access conditions, see a route card. So to start route planning, we go up to routes. If you have already generated some routes and you have routes that you use quite regularly, you can save the route codes, and very similar to the vehicle code, you can enter the route code up into the box on the top right, hit load, and it will load the route for you. It will check that route against current access conditions and give you your route card with all your access conditions shown on it. So regardless of where you choose a route, it will start figuring it out for you. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to start, and I will load a route a bit later, but I'll just show you how to pick a beginning and end point. It's just click in the box, drop it in there, same as most other tools. Zoom back out, find where you might be going as an end piece. I'm going to go down here as an example. Drop in down here, and it will work out the route for you, and it'll start to generate it. So it uses normal routing methodologies to generate the route. So you need to interrogate it, decide whether there is access conditions you can and can't meet, and where you can't, what you do around it, but you'll have visibility over the full network to be able to make those decisions on getting around it, finding those alternatives, whether it's an alternative route to avoid particular pieces of infrastructure that it says you can't access, or whether it's to find better alternatives. You might want to lower the mass, which may change some of the access outcomes, or you may wish to adjust the dimensions if it's a dimensional constraint. So it gives the ability to see what the capacity is, availability is, and then make the adjustments from there. As we can see from this route, it has brought me down, and I have a rail crossing here, which I would need to go and approach and make the connection with the rail manager. In this case is Queensland Rail, and decide through their processes if you need to gain approval, gain those approvals before you move. Additionally, on this route at the moment, there is a no access bridge for this particular vehicle. It is Bremer River, not the popular Bremer River, the unpopular Bremer River, and it has no access for this particular vehicle. What we can do as part of this decision making on this route planner, as part of this, is go back to the vehicle and see whether through adjusting the mass, we can change the access outcome and understand what mass we may need to readjust to, what changes we may need to make to the load if we wish to keep using that particular route. So you just click and drag on the mass slider, and as you slide down, it starts to make its adjustments. And you will move to a point, as you can see here, I've moved down to about 51.5 tons. If I confirm that, it will generate a new vehicle code for me against this particular mass. So I can save that and know this vehicle. And as we can see now, that no access bridge has changed. I now have access over that bridge, and I can now move. So it gives me a better indication of what I can do in particular circumstances to potentially improve it. There will be some bridges where the access will not change, but there'll be some where you may be able to interrogate it and reduce the mass of your vehicle to change your access outcome. In the event that make the decision that is not the way you want to go, you have a quite urgent load, you don't have time to gain the approvals, you can start working out some alternatives. So back in the routes, what I'm going to do now is just load in a route code to give you a demonstration of that, and that provides an alternative that I've mapped out for this particular route. So similar process, type it in, click on load. It will work through, and it will load the route, and it'll assess it against all the access requirements. So I've done some work here to make some arrangements to go around particular things. So down here, I've made a change so it goes around and it doesn't come over that no access bridge. So that's given me my route. Viewing the route card produces a turn-by-turn direction route card that also gives you your access conditions that you may need, or you will need, to meet as you carry out this activity. So it'll give you your start point, it'll give you pilot and escort requirements, and how they may change throughout the road network depending on how you move through our critical road and major road networks. And it will give you the turn-by-turn pointers directions as you go. For any bridges that may appear on that route that have travel conditions attached to it, they will also be shown in the route in sequence at that kilometre marker, so that your pilots and escorts and your driver, they understand where they've got to do centerline crossings as they move throughout that route. They understand where they've got to apply appropriate controls for them. In this instance here, with this route, it says that I have pilot and escort requirements. It will give me a validity window for this route, and that is associated to the map as well. With everything that I have here with this particular route, to use this vehicle, produce this route card, give it to the driver. The driver can grab his pilots and escorts, and away they go. That's it. That's your level of access produced right there. There is no permits, no anything else associated with this particular load. You can go and carry this particular load out within that period of time. When you do move, and it might, if it's another week or so before you do move, if you do move later on, come back in, recheck the route to make sure the access conditions haven't changed, nothing's changed along the route, produce a new route card, and again, away you go. So it gives the ability to make those informed decisions really, really quick, and it gives much faster, more expedited access to the road network where there is the ability to accommodate that particular vehicle. So you can print that and save it. Yeah, sorry, Russ, go.
I was going to give you another breather.
Sure.
just on this one, there's been a few questions in the chat around when pilots and escorts, particularly police, are required. So as Scott's shown there, depending on where you've selected the route, the size of the vehicle, etc., all those rules are built into the back end of the NAAS, and over a certain size, yes, police escort requirements will kick in, and that'll be featured. You can click on the section of road to actually see it back in the actual map screen, or as Scott's just shown you, it'll produce all that within the route card itself. So the team's actually answered a few of those in the chat. Keep your questions coming. We've got our team, and they're getting through them really quickly, but there was a couple there just on that one there, Scott. So
yep. Sure. No, they're very valid, and yes, you will have instances where there will be police required, and that's when they gets into that much larger dimensional envelope space, and that will be shown and made visible for operators as well. So this vehicle here is a relatively a relatively small vehicle dimensionally. If I was using this equivalent vehicle, I will just remove the route for now, but if I was using this equivalent vehicle, but the dimensions were quite a fair bit bigger, and I was switching to bigger dimensions on the vehicle itself, I can go into the modify my parameters. Using my same vehicle, I might have a different load on today. I might be quite a fair bit wider. So I will put something on there that's quite a fair bit wider and show you what the change in the map looks like and the visibility of the map. So I'll put a 7 in there, put that up to 5 just to increase it a bit. It's still giving me eligibility on the notice via the NAAS because I'm still within that dimensional envelope. I go to my vehicle summary. I can make some adjustments. I can check that this is all correct here. I may need to make some adjustments there to the mass because we've gone up quite a fair bit on that because we're heavier. So we'll put it back up around the 31 mark. So you continue to make those adjustments as you need to, and continue to get to the state of producing you a map. I've now got a new vehicle code against that particular pieces of information there, and it is now produced for me where that particular vehicle can fit or cannot fit. And you'll notice that the pilot and escort information and some of the more minor roads start to come off that. Some of our major roads are still on, but when I click on a road segment now, it will give me my pilot and escort requirements for both day and night, and it will tell me if I need police on this particular load or not. Producing the route code, working with QPS, that's how you go and seek their involvement through that. So when we produce a route card for this particular vehicle, it will give us those pilot and escort changes as we go along the network. So I will run up a route here to give you an indication.
So as you can see from the map, Scott's changed the parameters. It's quite a significantly heavier and larger vehicle, and there's a lot more red on the network, and that's how quick it is to actually change a vehicle. You get a bespoke map for that particular vehicle.
And and it'll give you all the updated and fresh information for that particular vehicle. Everything will still display for you. You can still see where your maximums are for your length, width, and height for a particular road. All that information is equal. So, if you load this vehicle in and someone else loads this vehicle in, you'll receive the same information. Everyone gets the same pieces. So I've run that route there. That's pretty well the way I want to go. I can view the route card. I can see if I've got access or not, and it is telling me I don't. So what you can then see is where along the route that no access points may be, and you can work through and review that, make adjustments, and decide whether there is different ways you can gain access to the sites, or different ways you can go about your route. As you can see, it will also give you the infrastructure pieces of information. So there's a few rail crossings along this route for which we'll need to go to QR and go through the process for them. So what we can do from this route card is go back and review the route. You will notice at the top, it says access for this vehicle is not allowed on parts of this route. So you would need to go back and make adjustments to be able to use this route on the NAAS. If there are absolutely no alternatives, and there's absolutely no way that you can get to the points that you need to get to, then when you come in for a permit application, you would need to provide some of these route cards and route codes to show us that you have tried to make alternative arrangements to get around it, as well as vehicle codes to show us that you have made attempts to make adjustments to the vehicles to get around it, and there are no alternatives. But you make every effort within NAAS to make all those adjustments so that you can gain access through NAAS as the first primary access point before coming through for a permit. So it was near where I was starting here, and this is just me using this, so I can adjust my start point here. I'm just going to drop that out. We'll just put that start point in there, so it's a bit closer to the road. You might have been too far in the driveway. We'll see if that adjustment has done me any good. I reproduce my route card. It is summarizing my route. So there's still bits and pieces that are not quite suitable. So it's just a matter of deciding whether the adjustments can be made here to correct that, or whether they can't. And you can interrogate in and out through that piece as the network to see what might fit and what might not, and what alternatives you can make. So there may be some alternatives you can do, there may not. But it gives you all of that visibility to work through it and have that level of understanding of what you can and can't do. So that's by and large the functionality of the NAAS. When we get to the preview stage, you'll be able to put your particular vehicles in there, understand what access looks like for you against your particular vehicles and the particular work that you do. You'll be able to understand where your loads can and can't move, what access conditions will apply to them, and how you would work forward when NAAS goes live and is enabled on the notice. So that about concludes the demonstration part of it. Russell, was there anything else you wanted to cover off?
Well, having done a few demonstrations, you've done a few demonstrations of late. No, I think this is why I've let you do this one. I think you've covered everything pretty much.
Yeah, we will have quite a lot. Yeah,
there's a lot of questions coming in. Mandy and the team are getting through them.
Yep.
I guess one thing just to point out, the routing tool is not going to get you automatically around any restrictions. As Scott's pointed out, it's a manual process, and that's deliberate. And the reason for that, we want people to be able to reconfigure their vehicle, reconfigure the load, or look at alternative routes, and not let the system do that on your behalf. So the logic within the system, it'll try and, there is a logic hierarchy around the route card, so it'll try and pick well-formed roads, like highways, major roads, etc. It's not going to do a Google and send you the shortest way necessarily through somebody's farm or somebody's paddock. That there's smarts in there to stop that from happening. So it will bias towards the major roads where possible. In some situations like this, as I mentioned earlier, we haven't, for this initial release, we're not mapping all the local roads in Queensland. So if there are any first mile, last mile, particularly council, all of TMR roads are in the NAAS. But if there's, first mile, last mile access that's not within the NAAS at the moment, to start with, you will have to get a permit just for that section. But that should speed up permit processes, because it's not the whole route you're trying to get a permit for. It's probably just 5 or 10 kilometres at the start or end, and the rest you can do under the NAAS and the route card.
Yep. Thank you. The one thing I will close on is just a really quick show of curfews, just so you can understand the information that's presented for curfews. So curfews are done in the highlighted color on the map, and you can get that. There we are. So if you click onto a road segment that has a curfew, it will give you what curfews apply, the dimensional curfews, particular, and it will tell you when the no travel is between and for what for. So whether it's a greater than width or a height width or a length width, it will give you that information. It also produces it on the route card if you are traveling on a road that has a curfew. So all the information is there and usable by everyone that accesses the system. And I just thought I better cover that off, because that was, I think, the only thing I had remaining as far as NAAS goes. So I will move back to...
I might just cover off on a couple of things in the chat. The team are answering them, but some of the questions have been around the mapping product. So the base data we are using in this is actually Queensland Roads and Tracks, which is what a lot of government agencies, councils use, etc. That gets updated all the time. So as a new housing estate gets put in, goes into Queensland Roads and Tracks. What we're doing is just adding heavy vehicle access GIS data layers basically above that. Yep. We will have processes with our own districts, councils and ports to update any mapping information. That's a bit of a manual process for now. There is a road manager portal that's being developed by the national team for the national product. There will be a read-only version before we go live, and we'll get into implementation in a moment. There's been lots of questions about when are we releasing it. Sounds like people are excited and they want it tomorrow. But yes, there is a road manager portal, and in the future, sometime next year, road managers like councils and ports will be able to actually get in there and update any add roads, add access conditions, or remove access conditions if a bridge has been upgraded. So it's a lot. We're moving towards a lot more dynamic data in and data representation than you have at the moment with permits. Once you get a permit, that's it. It's a piece of paper or whatever it is, a PDF, and then the road network changes sometime in the future. But we're moving towards a more dynamic environment. As roads get upgraded, bridges get upgraded, it'll appear within a very short time frame within the NAAS.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we'll move along to some other information now, because I think people want to know when they're going to get it. Cole, can you just mute? So I'll just get to some slides here. So some next steps for us, and this is where people want to know what's happening. This is the engagement pieces and next steps for us. So low loader preview is going to be 24th of August 2026 with the implementation in November. So as you can see, there's lots of benefits for industry. There's also benefits for us in having the NAAS. As we count down to the release of the low loader approach, we're doing it in a staged approach. So the permit durations that are currently out there for low loaders issued before the go live in November. There'll be some changes to how we manage that, just so we can transition towards the NAAS in a nice balanced way. It'll help us support a smooth transition to the new arrangements and help operators transition to the NAAS when it becomes available. So new low loader permit applications, permits issued before go live will be granted a shorter period based on when they get approved. So up to the 24th of August this year, the permits will be approved for a 12-month period. Between 24th of August and 30th of September, we'll be approving those for a 9-month duration as we transition more vehicles in the direction of going towards a live NAAS. Between 1st of October and 15th of November, it'll be on a 6-month duration, at which point in time the NAAS will go live and people will be able to gain access on the notice through NAAS. Importantly, these changes will only apply to low loader permits issued before go live. Existing permits are out there will not be affected, and we'll provide more information for everyone on these changes very shortly. There's some information coming out so everyone understands what is happening. I will now pass over to Colin to talk about work here going forward.
Howdy everyone, thanks a lot for coming along today, and it is lovely to see a few familiar faces. I see a few former transport inspectors from TMR that are online that are now off in the regulator land. So I really appreciate everyone giving us this opportunity today to talk you through NAAS and its features and functionality. So obviously with any change piece, we want to support you through that. There are a lot of resources being developed to support you through that, including some learning modules, and the ones related to industry will be available on our website as part of this launch and preview. Preview will run from 24th of August to 18th of September. So that's an opportunity for industry and other stakeholders just to look at the system. It's not a live access. It's just about you experiencing the functionality, getting used to it in preparation for the go live later in the year. And go live for low loaders actually commences 16th of November. So it just gives you that look at it before we get into it and go live. In addition to the learning modules or work instructions, we've also got an instructional video. There's an 11-minute video snapshot of what NAAS does and how it works. A lot of the stuff that Scott's gone through today, but I can't stress enough, the system is really intuitive. It's got a really great help function. There's lots of systems that I don't necessarily, don't see that, but it tells you everything. It walks you through exactly how you fill out every component, and it's not requesting any additional information to what you'd normally put in a permit type process anyway. We've also got a feedback survey. So during preview, we're really keen to hear from you as the customer as to how this thing works for you and any additional information that you need. We've got a very comprehensive frequently asked questions pack, which is available with it and displayed on our website, but also really keen to hear things that you might want to know more about, and we can build that into any sort of instructional material that we provide prior to going live. The other thing also is we actually have saddle wheel travel and going to go out to a number of regional centres to provide some industry support. We might go to the next slide, Scott. So as I said, we've got a preview window which runs from the 24th of August through to the 18th of September. During preview, there's actually a feedback survey out in the wilderness for you to fill out. It's really straightforward. We don't want to waste your time with a lot of additional information. It's just your experience of the system, things you want to know more about that are system focused, but also we do give you the opportunity to have specific access questions that you'd like to ask of us. You have that opportunity to do that through that process. Following this webinar, there'll be a suite of information sent out to you to support you through preview, and then the feedback survey and QR code attached to that will be part of all that. If we just go to the next slide, Scott. I mentioned earlier on that as part of this, we want to get out and about and see industry and talk you through the nuances of the system and its functionality. We've got an itinerary of engagement coming up. Russell mentioned earlier that we've been doing sessions at Port of Brisbane and with various industry groups, which has been great. But also we want to get out to the regions and certainly share that information and give you the opportunity to pop in, visit, chat with us, ask us questions about how it'll work for you. And I've got that itinerary up there. A couple of the trailer companies have been kind enough to allow us to visit their site and premises and make ourselves available there. We've got a session in Rocky at the Rocky Ring Road office. Obviously that's in full swing at present, and we're doing a few innovative things with traffic signals to support large girder movements and stuff. So as part of that session, we're actually going to share a couple of the positives that we're doing for industry to support their moves as well. We're in Paget, a place that I'm very fond of, having a session with industry there. Port of Brisbane, Toowoomba City, we're out at Roma, Mount Isa, and back at Brisbane. So we're getting out and about, but I guess I just encourage people to reach out to us if you want to know more about it, or you're interested in learning how it works. We're here to help with all that stuff. That's probably it for that, Scott. More information. So we actually have a website, Queensland NAAS at tmr.qld.gov.au. That's your other port of call essentially for any feedback as well. So obviously we have the feedback survey there, where you can tell us all things about your experience, but we also have the website there, have the email there if people wanted to email in, and we'll be monitoring that. So during preview, we have internally what we call a community of practice, which involves all the business units that are involved in the access management, including a HVO team, or essentially the face of TMR when it comes to all things industry, our structures team, our districts which manage the road network. They're all part of that, and as information comes in during that preview period, we're gonna work together to work through responses to yourselves, as well as take on board any feedback you have to make improvements to the system and the supporting materials that we have to get you online and working effectively with the system. So we see that as a really good opportunity for us to develop resources which will help you. In addition to that, we have quite a comprehensive website, and that's our point of truth essentially. So feel free to go in there, have a look at what's happening, and we'll regularly update that. That's live. We regularly update that to reflect the current state of play. That's probably it from me. I might hand back to Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Additionally to Colin's work and all the engagement, you would have noticed on there that there will be an online session that we'll be hosting. So we will try and accommodate our online session that's suitable to industry's times and availability. So there will be also opportunities for people who can't make the regional visits to also attend the online session with us, with the team, and have those conversations, provide that feedback and information.
Scott, I might just cover off on a couple of things. Just watching the chat and as well, a couple of questions around vehicle codes and people entering in vehicles that aren't necessarily with the heavy vehicle industry. As Colin mentioned, we will be sending out lots of information over the next few weeks and months. Website will be continually updating and changing as we get into different phases. So pre-webinar, post-webinar, pre-preview, post going to go live. What we'll be providing is some sample vehicle codes. So rather than anybody can put those codes in. So TMR people, council people, there's been a few comments in the chat. So we'll give a sample representative 3-axle, 4-axle, 5-axle low loaders, those codes. Anybody can use them. You just copy, paste, put it in there, and you can be able to generate your own maps based on those different types of vehicles. So that was a couple of things there. Lots of questions around conditions of operation database, etc., etc. The team are answering those, and some of those are actually covered on our website and FAQs. And we will a lot of these questions as well. If we haven't got it in our FAQs, we will take these on board and also put them into the FAQs. So keep them coming. Actually getting love hearts. So I don't know if that's for you, Scott, and your beard, but I think you should take that.
People are only human, mate.
I know.
Are only human.
Yes.
And they're all very good and very valid questions. This is a very big, significant change here in Queensland to how we do access for these particular vehicles. And there is a lot of things that everyone needs to consider. So we're more than happy for the questions to come through. We're more than happy to hear your engagement and response and use of NAAS as we go through. As Colin said, with the surveys and things as such, they're very valuable to us to understand industry's acceptance of the system and use of the system and things that we might be able to do better. There's always opportunities to do better. So we're very open to hearing that from industry. If you've got good experiences, we also like to hear that.
Yes,
from
the internet is full of
time.
The internet is full of cranky people, so we'd like to hear from the happy people as well. Can you go back to the slide on the roadmap, please? There's been a few questions about other vehicles joining the NAAS.
Okay, yes, sure. I think
so.
I
Just
may have gone past
as I
explained,
covered off a bit earlier, this is a national. We are working within a national program, so other states are rolling out their version of this over the coming years. So there is a national pathway for, let's let this person in, national pathway for the jurisdictions, national pathway for different vehicles. So Tasmania has already implemented their ADF along with us, but then they've also implemented into the NAAS. It's live now. You can go in to the NAAS, the live version of the NAAS, and look at PBS vehicles in Tasmania. They've released an unlimited network and limited vehicles to start with, like we are doing with oversize over mass, just to get this thing up and running and get industry. And it's really about us implementing quite a substantial change in bite-sized chunks. So just to answer some of the questions online, this is why we're just doing low loaders and then mobile cranes and then other vehicles, because it's more manageable for us, it's more manageable for industry, and we're doing it in discrete chunks. There has been classic failures in the past with systems trying to do everything all at once and falling over at launch. So this is a way of making sure we get reliable and access systems up and running for discrete vehicle groups, parts of Queensland on a priority basis, and get them up and running. And then our project team, we're moving on to the next vehicles where we're simultaneously doing that along with implementing low loaders. Just to be really clear about preview. Preview is it's like a sand pit. So that's going to be released on the 24th of August. More information will come out about that. And that'll go for 4 weeks. So it's a non-legal version. So you still have to get permits during that process. There'll be a nice big banner up the top saying this isn't illegal, doesn't not provide legal access, etc., but it's really just a sandpit version of what we plan on implementing mid-November this year for low loaders. So broad timelines, things change with IT development, any IT project, and also data gathering as well. There's a lot of data that needs to be gathered around mobile cranes and platform trailers and PBS especially. So can't give you any firm dates at the moment for 27 and 28, but there is a national pathway leading right up to 2030 for different vehicles in different states as they come on board. Thought I'd just cover that off.
Valid. Yeah, thank you, Russell. And worthwhile noting too that in the preview stage, when you are creating vehicle codes and route codes, they will work when we go live.
Yes.
So the work you do in preview to build out your vehicles, build out your routes, gain an understanding what access will look like when NAAS becomes live and has notice and there's a live map, that work will not be wasted. Your vehicle codes and your route codes will work. So day one go live, you can go and enter that in.
So that was a bit of a light bulb moment at a demonstration we did down the Port of Brisbane, where somebody in industry said, "Oh, great! I could use Preview to start building my vehicle libraries and my route libraries." And we sort of went, "That's a good idea." Hadn't really thought of it in that context because we were, wanted people to play with it, not necessarily use it for that. So we've been talking to the national team and ensuring that functionality, so you can be building your vehicle libraries, your route libraries, all that stuff within the preview time. So when we do go live in mid-November, they're all there. And talking with people in industry, we know that operators, they manage basically permit libraries. There could be 2,500 permits. They continually churn them just to keep them updated, just in case jobs come up. So industry will move away from a lot of that admin and managing, 90-page permits to, you can pretty much have a spreadsheet of vehicle codes, route codes, with a description of each of them, obviously, but you go away from managing a library of permits to a library of vehicle codes and route codes, which you can develop during the preview period. And as Scott said, we'll be working with the national team to copy that over to the live version in November.
Excellent. Thank you, Russell. Moving back along here. So that's really everything that we had for you today. The team will keep working on those questions. And for anything that we haven't got to, we'll make sure we get back to you as soon as we can with that. We'll let everyone know when a copy of this webinar recording is made available publicly on our website. So make sure that we communicate that out to you, and there'll be some further information around permits and things as such as well as time goes by.
I was going to do some thank yous at the end, Scott, if you're wrapping up.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'll do that when you're finished. Yep.
I was about to.
Oh, okay.
Go with the thank yous. Go with the thank yous, mate.
Yeah. Look, as you know, this project's been going on for several years. A lot of support from senior management within TMAR, particularly Dennis. Shout out to Dennis if he's still online, our chief engineer within the department. But a big shout out. There's a long list, so apologies if I miss some people, particularly the Commonwealth. They've been quite active in this space, very strong supporter of this product. Shout out to our TMR engineers in our districts, structural engineers, been an awful lot of data to pull together, streamlining the data, rationalising, making curfews consistent, etc., etc., etc. And that works well as across our councils. There's a few council people I've noticed. G'day, Bruce from Ipswich. Saw you pop in. Working with councils, the ports. Nicola, I think I saw you there. Shout out to the ports across Queensland as well. Getting all that information from you, getting it into the system. We're finally here. You can finally see it. Also, the national project team. They've been very responsive to changes. There's been a lot of work developing functional requirements and everything else with this product. And then when we went through testing, we found a few things that we needed changing, and they've been very accommodating with some of those changes. Some changes we can't do and test in time, but we'll get to those. Big shout out to our IT people as well. We've got embedded in our team, TMR IT people as well, and they've been doing all the hard yards in recent months with testing and data and etc. Also our GIS people. The list goes on and on and on. This is like a Cecil B. DeMille movie production. If you're my age, you know what a Cecil B. DeMille movie is. But yeah, it's been a rather big production, and it's very fulfilling for the team. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a team of about 16 people here. They're all in the background, but they've all been working very hard as well on this whole journey. for the last few years. But did I miss anybody, Scott, in terms of thank yous?
No, I think they got.
Actually, I even noticed their friends in Queensland Treasury snuck in as well, who I've been talking to as well. So thank you, guys. Yep.
Excellent. All right. That's pretty much about it. Dennis, I can't see the cameras. If you're still there, did anything to close from you before we go?
Yeah, no, I think you've done a pretty comprehensive job, guys. Yeah, look, I think just wanted to reiterate the support and all the hard work from a range of different people, as Russell highlighted. But this will be successful only when we are successful with industry. So working with industry is critical. So those sessions are important. We are here to support because this is too important for the industry and for the country not to get right, because this system will fundamentally change how access is managed in this country. So this is a big step forward. First major step forward on a mainland state, but we want to do this right, get it right. We want to support our interstate colleagues to do the same. That's all I needed to say. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that. Okay, thank you to my co-presenters, Colin, and thank you to Russell for giving me a chance to have a drink.
Well done, Scott.
That's everything we have for you today. So we'll let you get on with your Friday. It's important day in transport is Fridays. So thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at the regional visits and out and about, as well as online. We'll continue with those questions, and we'll be back in touch soon again. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.